Whatever was the result of the previous match has nothing to do with how we feel the game will be played. We need obviously to have the best attitude. We know what we did well, what we need to take care. We know very well the strong points of Sekhukhune, and we know how they can harm us, so how we need to control them. But we have a strong intention, a very strong intention regarding the outcome of the match. Obviously that we want to proceed. It's a competition where we want to be in the final and play to win the trophy. And for that we need to be very strong, very strong. With all the conditions, whatever they are, I'm pretty sure we're going to be very strong.
Thank you, Coach. Let's take questions from the floor. Show of hands, maybe. Let's go to Zako.
Good afternoon, Coach. Coach, I think you have a few players currently observing the month of Ramadan. Could you perhaps just talk to us about how you are handling them, if there is perhaps maybe a special program that they're on, and also just in your experience of having coached in countries that are Muslim, so to speak?
It's interesting, very interesting question. We don't have many players under that conditions. I think we have only 3 of them. From them, one we usually use more, the other one we also use regularly. The third one we are not using so much. But from my experience, and even yesterday we spoke about that, from my experience last year, I didn't felt that the team suffered during the period of Ramadan. But that implies a big discipline from the players in order to cope with the challenges obviously that Ramadan brings for those players. Depending on the hour of the matches, that can be more tricky or less, because as you know, they do their last meal before the sun rises, and they keep them they're fasting until the sun fades. So it implies that they need to be fed or they need to eat during the night, and they need to rest or sleep more, especially in the morning. So usually what we have to do is obviously adjust the schedule so that they follow their own routine. The team meetings, some of them we need to make them individually for those players. But also it's important that we all understand that from my experience in Tunisia last year, where almost all the team was fasting, so it was exactly the opposite as we have here. So we were a couple of people that were not fasting. That also there are different levels of fasting, because Ramadan and the religion doesn't oblige us, for example, in the match day, so when the person has to work, doesn't oblige to make a pure and complete fasting. It says that day can be compensated after. So it might happen that some of the players on the match days, they don't fast in order to, but then they need to give extra days in the end. So that's what the religion says, and that was the experience that I got. But anyway, even in Tunisia last year, there were a lot of players that didn't eat anything on the match days. I remember the most challenging situation that we had was when we played ASEC Mimosas away for Champions League, that we were playing I think at 8 o'clock, and we took the players earlier on the locker room, and they had a dinner before the match. They did the dinner, but we had a dinner before the match. So I think we will cope with the situation, trying to minimize as much as possible the impact of the fasting, trying to give them the opportunity to rest and to compensate eventually the fact that they have to wake up during the night to eat. But probably where you can feel a little bit more is in the last week of that period. But in the first 3 weeks, usually there's no big impact if we really work on the compensation, and that's what we try to do. So the players are provided special food. The players are waken up in the night so that we really assure that they eat, and we try to provide them the rest in the right hours so that we can have them in conditions to play.
Thank you. Let's go to Kateko.
Coach, when you look at, that before the first game against Sekhukhune, you did mention the physical aspect. We also saw that against Golden Arrows yesterday with Lucas coming on the back of some tough challenges. So where do you draw the line between physicality and also trying to play the game in the right manner?
Very interesting question also. Obviously that the impact of the fatigue in the players can happen in a different way. Players, not all of them, they have the same pattern of physical activity during the matches. As I said already in some press conferences, the ones that suffer most are the ones that have to do, or usually they do very explosive actions. Because the fatigue conditions a little bit the capacity to repeat high intensity efforts. So it's normal that the players that have that pattern of activity and that their game depends on that capacity, they feel more effective eventually. Fatigue also is felt more in the third, fourth match in a row. So in the first, second that you enter in such schedules, you don't feel so much, but in the third, fourth, it can happen that it will touch you. But also is a matter of how used you are to that kind of work. And obviously that helps us a little bit because we work with players that have been doing it already, maybe not so aggressive as these last 2 weeks, and mostly this last the matches that we have had, last one and the next two, because we're going to play 3 times in a row on the third day, what is absolutely unacceptable in my way of seeing. But it's what we have. We'll manage context. I think that yesterday was clear in the first half that it was difficult to pick the rhythm of the match, but it was also clear in the second half how strong we were and how we should have obviously won the match yesterday. And this is just what I ask, to let us play football, nothing more than that.
Right, as we proceed, Themba Shabazana.
Good afternoon, Coach. One of the challenges that we seem to have every match that we play, we see playing in the league or maybe in the cups, has been the officiating. And even if you can take it back to the match yesterday, how far away do you think, as the league, are we from getting it right in terms of the officiating now that you guys come all the way to strengthen the league and all of that and bring all these players, but the officiating still remains a problem?
Thank you very much to giving me the opportunity to speak about that issue. Because as you know, I don't like really to mostly personalize whatever has to do with referees. I will never do it because I think that in the end the coach has more to lose than to win when he personalizes the question. So I will not personalize, because regarding yesterday, you are the ones that should speak for your football. You are the ones that should defend your football. You are the ones, you are reporters, you have a social impact and an impact on the people that has responsibilities on football. Is up to you to highlight what good or worse or bad he's been doing. What I tell you is that at the same time that the conditions where football is played, the level of the coaches is increased or should be increased. The level of the players is increased. Also the level of the referees should be increased. In general, but it's not in South Africa, it's everywhere in the world. I think obviously that it would be very important that VAR could be put it on working here in South Africa. It would help the referees, because also referees, they are human beings, and when they make a mistake during the match, it's normal that can happen. When it's too many mistakes in one match, obviously it's not comfortable. And as I said, it's up to you to look to yesterday's match and see what happened. Because in a normal game yesterday we have won, and that costed us 2 points. that can be very important on a championship fight, can be very important on the morale of the team. But as I started to say, I think that all the organization of football in South Africa must understand that what is important is to defend football. There must be a vision clear of development. And I'll give you an example. For example, in Europe, in Portugal, before a match, there's always a meeting between the referees, the two parts, the officials, where they discuss all the organization of a match. I used to attend, when I was assistant coach, I used to attend those meetings. And there was a discussion and a talk about how people should relate, how people should, because even the relation between the referees and the coaches that are on the bench, they should be really well taken care and protected, because coaches and players, they are emotional. We deal with emotions. Referees also, but they are not in charge, they are not in question when there's a football game. Players are evaluated, coaches are always scrutinized, evaluated also. And referees are the ones that in the middle of that have a big responsibility to take care of everybody around. So the way you relate with the different agents, players or coaches should be nice, polite, positive, so that also they help us to be in the right mood, in the right direction, in the right relation. And I always tell, help us, just help us, because we are under big stress, it's normal. We depend on what's happening. They don't depend, we do. Because they are evaluated in the end of the season, whatever happens. And of course they have eventually evaluation every match, but it's not the same. Yesterday I was telling, please don't forget, we are playing for a championship. We are 8 matches from the end of the season. So please respect what's happening in the pitch. And that's what we ask only. We don't want to be ever have a favor of whoever it is, but we just don't want also to have anything on the pitch that we say, please, we just want to be respected. My players as individuals, on the way they are approaching, on the way people speak with them. Also myself, because I don't speak bad for the referees, I don't use bad language. I can protest, but I don't use bad language. If I will ever do it, I will be the first one immediately to say, oh sorry, it escaped from my mouth, I will not repeat it, because I'm not like that. And I also don't like to hear that I am disrespecting someone when I don't speak bad for no one. But I heard it already, more than once. I was already threatened to put it out twice, and I had to ask Steve, please help me, because I did nothing and I'm being threatened to be put it out. I don't like that, of course. That never happened to me. But I already made mistakes myself in my career. I remember once. And because of that, I have a much more, I always had it, but now a much more clear vision of how to relate with the different agents. Because whatever happens in a football match, we should always understand that the next day, life will go on. And we are privileged people. We are privileged people. We have good salaries. We have our families protected because of that. We do what we love. But I think also the referees do what they love. Also players do what they love. So the way we all should relate is in order to progress football in South Africa. Because one day I'll go away. I don't know if it will be in 1 month. I hope just in the end of several seasons. But I would like one day that my passage through South African football should be remembered, of course, by trophies, but also remembered by a pedagogical approach. And I just want to leave that mark, because I think I'm already 54, you know, it's already an age where you look for things in a different way than when you were 30, that you just wanted to win and make your steps and impose yourself. No, that's not the way I see life now. That's now how I don't speak with my son, I speak with him in a different way. So these values that we try to have, and it's important that you understand, Sundowns is a club where there are values that I need myself also to respect. I cannot provoke whatever happens situation, because I know I will be called on attention, because we have values inside the club, a way to relate with the things. And I must respect that. There's also a commitment for myself to the club on my own contract regarding the behavior I should have. So I know where I step my feet. I should control myself. And I hope I will never put the foot out of that line. I will make my best not to happen. But I ask everybody to help us to have the right emotions, to live the right emotions. Because I think I said that already publicly. Bad thoughts bring bad emotions. And when people start, or there's things that happen that we don't understand clearly, obviously they put in our minds bad thoughts. And because of that, we might have bad emotions. And then the behaviors can be not the ones we want. So I'll make my best to keep that line. I'll make my best to keep my players on that line. I work hard on that. I work hard on the mindset, hard, very hard. And yesterday at halftime, believe guys, I was so strong with my players, telling them to just focus on football, to just focus on football. Because in the end, also the referee is a human being, and maybe he was just, whatever match he is, having a bad day, because maybe that also the referees, they also have right to a bad day. That's why I say VAR is important, because that helps a referee to not have such bad days, because they can happen. They can be corrected. It's an opportunity that we give to referees to make less mistakes, to be better. And that's just how I see football. It's a money that is well spent on VAR. And on education. We all should develop education. I was speaking in Chuping before we sit here about the education we do on coaches in Portugal. And that education should be transversal to all the football agents, to the people that manage this football. Because, for example, nowadays in Portuguese Federation, there's licenses for agents, there's licenses for sports directors, there's even education for presidents. It's so funny, but it's true. Because the business became so wide open, there are so many tools that also to be a good sports director, a good team manager, a good president, you also need to manage more than just money in order to impose yourself as a president, or you understand what I mean? Yeah. And that is very important. That's how then we can be more wise on bringing the right decisions for the football game, so that indeed we protect. Because I said it here, I want to repeat it again. Football is a product that we have to sell, to make money, to bring more money for the clubs. Because if you sell the game abroad, the TV rights, the clubs will receive more money from those rights that should be shared the way they are shared, more equally or less equally, because there are different ways to do it. In England, there's even an unbelievable way to do it. A team that goes from Premiership to the second division, they get even more budget than the teams that are in the lower positions on the Premiership, because that's the way they try to keep the investment that the clubs did. So there's different ways to share the TV rights. But one thing is clear, the money we make from football should stay in football, in the clubs, that are the ones that invest in players. So better facilities, better players, better conditions, better referees, better management, better coaches, for sure. And also regarding coaches, it has nothing to do with being foreigner or in South Africa. There are South African coaches, good, very good. For sure there are weak, like there are Portuguese weak, average, good and very good. It's not a matter of race, even sex, because there are fantastic women coaches nowadays. It's just a matter of being in the business and trying to make the best. That's how I see things.